Welcome back, everybody. It's been a while. And yeah, last time I left off, I was getting hired on with a large manufacturing company. Good job. Doesn't mean I like having a job. We all, I'm sure most people listening to this understand that, it'd be nice to be able to live off investments or be retired or whatever, but, work is sometimes necessary. So, be that as it may, today's subject will be three things that you can do to improve your credit this year. This is intended more for those whose credit is so low you got to dig for it. Like when you look at it and go, ooh, when the credit card offers laugh at you, that is a good sign that your credit's way too low. Anyway, so going into this, it wasn't until fairly recently that I actually came to understand how the whole credit thing works, because I grew up in a household where credit was the devil. Dad didn't have a credit card until after my younger brother graduated from high school. And I think it was because he had to have a rental car one day and they wouldn't honor cash, and Dad was always a cash sort of guy. So, be that as it may, as time went on, I finally realized I should probably pay some attention to this, because obviously I didn't have any upbringing in it. My father didn't have any upbringing in it because his father was a Depression-era survivor, and I'm pretty sure that the cash-only thing went back to that. There was a lot of things I saw growing up that were indicative of that mindset. I'm not saying it's good, not saying it's bad, just different. The food store, the pantry full of food that would last a year or two, like all kinds of freeze-dried stuff, oats and all kinds of things. But anyway, so that more recently, when I realized I needed to take this seriously, I started looking around. I'm to a point where I might be wanting to get another mortgage at some point. My existing loan is private money, because at the time I bought, there was no such thing as a stated income loan at that time anymore at that point, because the market was. So I did what I had to do, and part of it too was at the time I worked as a bartender in that service industry. There's a lot of cash involved there that isn't maybe necessarily on the books. You try to declare as much as you can, but at the same time, depending on where you're at, you could end up outing your coworkers. There's all kinds of, it's a whole nother, that's a whole different story. Some of you that have worked in that environment probably understand better. When I was in the hotel bar, everything was completely above board, so that was cool in that regard. Not so cool when it came time to pay taxes, but so as I've gone forward, I've had to focus on understanding this stuff better. So for those of you that don't know, when you look at your FICO score, your something Isaacs and anyways. By the way, be aware there is a difference. A lot of what you'll see, like Credit Karma, great service, simple, easy to use, but that's not your FICO score. That's a different score. Sometimes they'll be really close, other times they won't. Be that as it may, you're basically looking at your FICO score. 35% of your FICO score is made up of your on-time payment history. So right there we know that even if you pay the minimum payment, ideally you don't carry any balance on your credit card, because you're probably paying a stupid amount of interest. If you have a credit card at this point, you may not. But 35% of your credit score is based on your on-time payments. So even if you have to just make a minimum payment, do that. If you've got credit cards, set them up on a monthly billing or a monthly payment plan so that is taken care of. 30% of your credit score is based on your credit utilization, or how much of your available credit do you use. So most people will tell you it's about 30%. You don't want to be above 30%. So that means if you have $1,000 worth of credit lineage, be that two $500 credit cards, $1,000 credit card, whatever, you don't want to use more than $300 of that. So if you think like I do, that tells you that if the amount you want to be able to put on the cards every month is say $1,000, that tells you need about a $3,000 line of credit, or a total of $3,000, so that you don't exceed that 30% mark. Now that would put you at 33. So really, without doing the math, you'd need to be at about, I don't know, 3,300 or something. You get the point though. So from there, 15% of your credit score is based on your oldest credit line. Now this is based on an average. So if you've got, say, one credit line that's 15 years old, and you open a couple more fresh, that 15-year is now going to be an average of 5 rather than just being, say 7.5 or so. Understand that it's a fairly minor amount, a fairly minor percentage, but it's worth understanding. 10% is going to be how many new accounts you have in the past year, and 10% is going to be your credit mix. Obviously, if you're just starting out, you don't have a mortgage, or you're dealing with private money, you're not gonna have a mortgage loan showing. If you've never had a car loan, that's not gonna show. I'm not a big fan of the idea of just getting a car loan or a mortgage just so that it shows up on your credit score. That's shooting yourself in the foot. Frankly, I'm not a big fan of a lot of the cars that are out there right now. Anything I'm interested in is not yet in my price realm, so I'm just not going to bother. I'll just keep banking the money. So anyway, now that you understand what your credit score is composed of, there are a couple other things that can reduce it a little bit. Like hard inquiries. Some credit card companies, when you apply, they'll make a hard inquiry, car loans, mortgages, stuff like that. If you're over, say you're using 50% of your credit instead of 30%, that'll knock you down 4 to 7 points on your credit score probably. Just stuff you understand. And obviously that's sort of temporary, so it's not really a big deal. Probably isn't going to be what breaks you. Now, with all of this in mind, since I hadn't paid attention in a long time, my credit score was really low. It wasn't no credit, it was crappy credit. I'll be the first to admit it. I hadn't paid attention. I didn't understand how the game was played. Now that I understand how the game is played, that makes life a lot easier. So, things I have found that help out. One of the first things I did when I started working on raising my credit score was go get a secured credit card. And for those of you that don't understand what a secured credit card is, this is where you pay money towards pay money as collateral on a credit card, and then after a period of time, they will release that money back to you, be it a year or 2 years or whatever. I think Wells Fargo, it takes up to like 2 years. I think I heard somebody say it took them as long as 3. I have some questions at that point. Maybe they weren't paying their bill on time, or maybe they just kept it maxed out all the time. I don't know. Anyway, I chose to go with Capital One because I've been banking with them. If you're looking for a savings account that's got a decent yield, they've got a high performance savings account that yields, I think, 1.7%. Don't quote me on that, but because no sooner will I say that than they'll have lowered it, especially considering the way things are going. Sorry, guilty habit here. If Graham Stephan saw this, he'd probably smack me, but I'm working on it. Something for me to give up in the new year. And no, that's not product placement. So, second thing you can do, take a look at all 3 of your credit bureaus. All 3 of them. I will bet you that they don't match. Like 2 of the 3 will probably match. One of them would probably be different than the others. That's what I found in my experience. I found stuff on one that wasn't on the other 2. I found stuff on the other 2 that wasn't on that other one. I even found stuff that was same creditor across all 3 with different totals. Keep this in mind, because this is something that you can work with. If you have collections on your credit report, scrutinize them very, very closely. Look at the details. Are the dates right? Are the amounts correct? Do you doubt that that was even yours to begin with? If you have anything remotely that seems off, go ahead and dispute it. What are they going to do? Say no? I have managed to successfully get about 4 or 5 things tossed off. One thing that one creditor finally actually took off themselves after a phone call with me was I had an apartment years ago where they came after me for some amount of money. I don't even remember what it was now. But I was kind of puzzled because the place was in good condition when I left. I'd done everything I'd been asked to do, so I didn't understand what the problem was. Other creditors had come after me for it in the past, and no one could ever give me a straight answer on what the cause was. One speculated water bills, and I said, well, that didn't make any sense because that always got paid with the rent. So there was a lot of stuff with it that just didn't make sense. So when I got to talking to one creditor, they finally said, oh, well, it's because you broke your lease. Really? That's interesting. I didn't have a lease. Well, I've got a form right here in front of me that says you had a 1-year lease. Really? Okay. So is my signature on it? Well, you initialed it. But is my signature at the bottom of it? Well, no, it's not. Oh, well, then I didn't sign a lease with them, and I was month to month, because I was at the time. After my lease had expired, I went month to month for about 2 months before I moved out, and they had tried to claim that I had broken the new lease. But I hadn't had a lease, so why were they trying to collect from me? Once I pointed that out, that they had no signature, that was the end of the story. I never heard a single thing about that ever again. So pay attention to some of this stuff, folks. If somebody thinks you owe them money, they're probably going to come after you. I've also seen collections that report a 0 balance. Why are you trying to collect from me if there's a 0 balance? That doesn't make any sense. Why is this on my credit? I know I didn't deal with them, so what gives? So by all means, if you encounter stuff like that, absolutely dispute it. Anything that seems off, I've seen cases where the reported line of credit total wasn't correct. They claim it was higher than it actually was, or lower, or whatever. Dates, all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of details that get lost in translation. So you're probably going to have the best luck getting getting collections agencies dropped off your record. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't try with others if you think there's any inaccuracies. And feel free to write a response letter on anything you find on there. It can't hurt. Also, the number one thing you can do, the absolute number one single thing you can do to help your credit is pay your bills on time. Period. If you can do that, you'll start creeping upwards again. Obviously, if you haven't in the past, there's probably a reason. Either you didn't have money, or you overextended yourself, or any number of things. Maybe you had a relationship that went sideways, and now you've got access to half the money you used to have because you were combining incomes. There's all kinds of things. Note on that. If you're in a relationship where you're mixing finances, consider maybe making sure that you can still survive if you had half of the income. That way you're also sheltered in the event of a layoff or job loss or any other, firing, whatever. Just food for thought. Irrelevant for this discussion, but food for thought. So at the end of the day, pay your bills on time, get yourself a secured card if you can't get a regular credit card at this point. And also, I'm losing my train of thought here. The third one, and dispute anything that looks incorrect on your credit report. And fourth, there's a fourth one. Smash the like button and subscribe, folks. Hopefully encourage me to make more of these videos, or maybe you don't want to hear from me again and you just, this guy should go. Anyway, so with that in mind, take those, go forth and see what you can accomplish for yourself in the new year and better your circumstances. Also, if you're looking for other secured cards, I believe Wells Fargo, Capital One on their 360 account, I believe it is. The Discover It card, though I'm hearing rumors of people getting rejected when they're trying to hand them money. I mean, it's secured, you're gonna have collateral, why would you, whatever. Some things in this world don't make any sense. Those are all that come to mind right now. If I think of any others, I'll get them to you. But for the time being, I hope you clicked like and subscribe. It would help me in the YouTube algorithms, and maybe at some point this channel will be successful. If nothing else, I continue to entertain my whole 2 viewers out there. So, have a good one, folks. Happy New Year, and until next time,